It snowed all week. Wheels and footsteps moved soundlessly on the street as if the business of living continued secretly behind a pale but impenetrable curtain. In the falling quiet, there was no sky or earth, only snow lifting in the wind, frost in the window glass, chill in the rooms, deadening and a hush in the city. At all hours it was necessary to keep a lamp lighted, and Mrs. Miller lost track of the days. Friday was no different from Saturday, and on Sunday she went to the grocery, closed of course. The evening she scrambled eggs and fixed a bowl of tomato soup. Then, after putting on a flannel robe and cold cream in her face, propped herself up in bed with a hot water bottle under her feet. She was reading the Times when the doorbell rang. At first she thought it must be a mistake and whoever it was would go away, but it ran and settled to a persistent buzz. She looked at the clock. A little after 11. It did not seem possible. She was always asleep by 10. Climbing out of bed, she trotted barefoot across the living room. "I'm coming. Please be patient." The latch was caught. She turned it this way and that way, and the bell never paused an instant. "Stop it!" she cried. The bolt gave way and she opened the door an inch. "What in heaven's name?" "Hello," said Miriam. "Oh, why, hello," said Mrs. Miller, stepping hastily into the hall. "You're that little girl. I thought you'd never answer, but I kept my finger on the button. I knew you were home. Are you glad to see me?" Mrs. Miller did not know what to say. Miriam, she saw, wore the same plum velvet coat, and now she had also a beret to match. Her white hair was braided into shining plaits and looped at the ends with enormous white ribbons. "Since I've waited so long, you could at least let me in," she said. "It's awfully late." Miriam regarded her blankly. What difference does it make?" "Let me in. It's cold out here and I have on a silk dress." Then, with a gentle gesture, she urged Mrs. Miller aside and passed into the apartment. She dropped her coat and beret on a chair. She was indeed wearing a silk dress, white silk. White silk in February? The skirt was beautifully pleated and the sleeves long, made a faint rustle as she strolled about the room. "I like your place," she said. "I like the rug. Blue's my favorite color." She touched a paper rose in a vase on the coffee table. "Imitation," she commented roundly. "How sad." "Aren't imitations sad?" She seated herself on the sofa, daintily spreading her skirt. "What do you want?" asked Mrs. Miller. "Sit down," said Miriam. "It makes me nervous to see people stand." Mrs. Miller sat to a hassock. "What do you want?" she repeated. I don't think you're glad I came." For a second time, Mrs. Miller was without an answer. Her hand motioned vaguely. Miriam giggled and then pressed back on a mound of chintz pillows. Mrs. Miller observed that the girl was less pale than she remembered. Her cheeks were flushed. "How did you know where I lived?" Miriam frowned. "That's no question at all. What's your name?" "What's mine?" "But I'm not listed in a phone book." "Oh, let's talk about something else." Mrs. Miller said, "Your mother must be insane to let a child like you wander around at all hours of the night. And in such ridiculous clothes. She must be out of her mind." Miriam got up and moved to a corner where a covered bird cage hung from a ceiling chain. She peeked beneath the cover. "It's a canary," she said. "Would you mind if I woke him? I'd like to hear him sing." "Leave Tommy alone," said Mrs. Miller anxiously. Don't you dare wake him." "Certainly," said Miriam, "but I don't see why I can't hear him sing. And then, have anything to eat? I'm starving. Even milk and a jam sandwich would be fine." "Look," said Mrs. Miller, arising from the hassock. "Look, if I make some nice sandwiches, will you be a good child and run along home? It's past midnight, I'm sure." "It's snowing," reproached Miriam, "and cold and dark." "Well, you shouldn't have come here to begin with," said Mrs. Miller, struggling to control her voice. "I can't help the weather. If you want anything to eat, you'll have to promise to leave." Miriam brushed the braid against her cheek. Her eyes were thoughtful, as if weighing the proposition. She turned toward the bird cage. "Very well," she said. "I promise."